guys, today we're gonna take you through how to do some caulking along trim. There he is. So Steven's gonna show you guys step by step how to do that and keep things nice and simple for you.
How you doing, guys? All right, first thing you're gonna do is I always cut my tip of my caulk at almost a 45 and then kind of just straighten it out. And then you wanna get it tight, give it a good level pressure on the trigger once it starts coming out, and keep on rolling. Now we're going around this outlet today. And always keep a damp sponge really handy. You want to just get your finger a little damp, and then you want to just apply pressure and push into your crack so it goes in and not out of it. And you see right here, you got that little smudge. Just go ahead and take your finger. You always want to go the direction of your opening. So as I'm pushing it in, I'm pushing it forward so that I can fill all this in. And that is how we're gonna keep going. You kind of want to make your bead just a little bit thicker than what you're trying to fill. When you get to your corner, just come back to yourself. And then we go back to our sponge. And we slide. And I like doing it in sections instead of one big run. Because once it starts to build up, if Becky, you come look, if you put it on my finger, you'll see once it starts to build up, it'll start pushing out on the outside of your finger right here. So that's why I like to just kind of, once I get a lot of it on my finger, right about there, I'll just kind of scoop it up, and it keeps that nice and fine. You don't get a lot of overlay or push out from your caulking. As you can see, I'm getting a lot of it onto the sponge. But it's also good because you can use this to fill like these little edge cracks and stuff. You can just take that and make that a little bit smoother.
Okay, so you can see where Steven has taken some of that excess and put it right into the seam there. I think we've got another one right down here.
Yeah, I'm just smushing it in, and then once you get a level, you know, you can feel when it's getting, or see when it's leveled up. You take the back of your sponge where it's clean and just
perfect. Now, Steven, is that a specific kind of sponge? That's usually what we use for drywalling.
You can use them for wet sanding drywall if you don't want to get dust everywhere. Just before it dries, damp the sponge, give it a couple wipes, and it'll act just like sandpaper without the dust.
Okay, cool. Now, here's some questions I think a lot of folks are going to ask. Is there a specific kind of, and I know the answer, but this is for them. So is there a kind of specific caulk that they should use, say, on trim like this versus in the bathroom?
There is, because bathroom, there's a lot of moisture out here. There's a lot of moisture, not any moisture, so you can use your regular basic 2-hour dry time caulk. In bathrooms, I would prefer a silicone caulk, only because it would prevent moisture damage, cracking, and shrinking in what you're trying to fill.
Now, in terms of caulk guns, I know there's different kinds that you can choose from. Do you have any that you prefer?
I prefer the old school pressure release caulk guns. You get more stability and control of the caulk coming out than you do with those battery powered caulk guns. So I always prefer just the old fashioned hand pressure caulk gun.
Right, and definitely though making sure it's got the release switch thing on the bottom. If it doesn't have that, that can be a total nightmare. Another tip that we could probably give people is when you're all done doing the caulking, what we tend to do is go ahead and put a nail in the end of where the caulk comes out, so you don't have caulk all over your garage floor or wherever you keep your caulk gun when you're done. And then any other tips for when people are doing caulking? You were mentioning about the bead size.
Okay, so here we didn't have to fill a very large crack, so a small cut into your tube of caulk is sufficient enough to fill that in. But sometimes you have a really large gap that you need ample caulk in. So I just go ahead and just make that notch a little bit bigger and just pump the caulk in. I mean, there's no such thing as too much caulk when you're kind of filling in along finished carpentry or anything like that. I would just adjust as needed with your tip.
Right, exactly. The important thing, though, going back to saying there's not a thing as too much caulk, you definitely, though, once you get it filled in, you definitely want to go back with your sponge and take off any excess. Otherwise, it's a nightmare to try to paint and deal with, right?
Yes. If you're a beginner, I would recommend getting another sponge. Even a microfiber rag, just nothing too fibrous. You want to smooth so you can just go ahead and wipe it and not dig out any of your caulk that you just put in. So like a damp paper towel would suffice if you want to just run that along real lightly after you do the finger push in with it. But that's what I would do.
Okay guys, that's it for this week's home handy project, doing some caulking. Hope you found this useful. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. And of course, if you'd like our help, you can always reach out to 303-531-1553. The information is also in the description below. Steven, you're amazing. Thank you so much.